Hello. Angie, you text me, I guess the original tape I sent, there was no volume. I don't know how it happened. Excuse me, I lost my voice because I was in a shouting match on my podcast the last couple of nights. I'm in a very controversial show on YouTube, Catalano TV, in the Dabbleverse, which is with all these old comedians and ex Howard Stern personnels and Stutter and John. I'm involved with that, and it's the Dabbleverse is all about trashing Stutter and John and showing how much of a bad person he is. And people go. I got 3 or 4 shows over in the UK doing shows of me trying to say how bad of a person I am, not a good person. Anyhow, I mean, my show is so controversial I can't even get out of the Dabbleverse. But here's where I'm going to start at. I grew up in the streets of Chicago. My father was a police officer, a corrupt police officer. My grandfather was a great police officer. I had family members that were on both sides of the fence, mob, and a lot of police officers. Most of my family, my mother's side, were all city employees under the daily administration. My father left me when I was 5 years old. He was a piece of shit. And he kicked us to the curb, me, my brother, my sister, my mother, and gave us a small apartment, sold a house. We couldn't make ends meet. I became a very bad child. I got in a lot of trouble. My father one day came in a police car, and it was 1973, I think, and he got mad because my mother kept calling the police station into his bosses there, saying how he didn't pay child support, and she was hungry, my kids were, and just trying to get him in all kind of trouble. So he showed up in a squad car with his partner when I told him to sit there, and he came in and he beat my mother severely bad, almost taking her eye out, and I was 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old. And long story short, she went to the hospital. Hospital asked her what happened. She told them they arrested my father in uniform, and my grandfather was one of the most honest police officers. He was on there for 38 years as a homicide cop. Didn't want the embarrassment, didn't want his name smudged, but he knew my father was a bad cop. My father was a dope-head cop who did a lot of bad things. And so my grandfather immediately he went and did damage control and got my mother not to testify, and started paying my mother a monthly check for support. He did the best he could. My grandfather got sick 1 year after he retired, and he died of cancer, and then my grandmother died. They were my whole backbone. My father would never send child support. Matter of fact, we were forced to move down to my mother's parents. At the time, Wrigley Field was really bad. Gangs, prostitution, heroin, pimps. I started shining shoes, but I was Italian, so I had the wise guys that were on the corner that loved me as a kid, but all my other friends were gangbangers, disciples, kings, and I was very good at talking. God gave me a gift of gab. My first encounter when someone pulled a scam on me, the gypsies, where got involved in a dice game when I was 9 years old, and they took all my gold. I went home, my mother said, "Where's all your jewelry?" Because I had the Italian horn, and if I wanted something, I had to work, so I shined shoes in bars late at night just to bring formula home and diapers to my sister. I mopped floors. I worked at the Lagabos Pizzeria. I was a pin setter. I had all these jobs just to put Converse All-Stars and baggy pants to look good at school. When I started the new school in a bad neighborhood, I got jumped my very first day. A kid behind me pushed me to the stairs in front of this kid that was a really big kid and a gangbanger who wound up getting killed in 19. He turned around and he said, "I'm beating your ass at the school." They beat me up. I take it. I fight them. I take it. Long story short, we wound up becoming friends. And the guy that pushed me, I became best friends. And while I was 10 years old, I invented the greatest scam of all times. I sold bicycle insurance to my classmates for $1 a week. And it was hard to get, the money out of them, but I hustled and I built it up to, realistically, I tell people 60, 70, but I'm going to be straightforward. I had about 12 customers, getting about $12 a week. And we would split it. That's in 1979, in 1977, 78, it was 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, when I was still in grammar school. I graduated, go to high school in 79. I did a lot of hustle. I shined shoes. I went out junking and built bicycles. I did everything I can to make $1. My mother had nothing. My mother's father retired from the city sanitation department. He died of a massive heart attack in front of me at 70, and when I was 9 years old in 1974 on May 3rd, and he had Lou Gehrig's disease. And my grandmother was the meanest person in the world. My mother's mother, she hated me because I looked like my father. My mother was a very stressed out woman, and I just wasn't a kid that would listen. I kept getting into trouble. I took a lot of beatings. I protected my sister and brothers. My mother meant well. She taught me, I'll never forget. I was always a small kid. She says, "You're going to learn how to fight and be a man. Everybody's going to take a piece of your ass your whole life, and you're going to be abused, and you're going to be a nobody. You're going to be a leader." I came home beat up from a bully one day. She asked me what happened. I lied. She goes, "You want me to beat your ass?" Took me down to the kid's house, made me fight him. She made me fight every. She taught me how to fight. It got to the point where by the time I was 11, when she hit me, I laughed at her, and I laughed at my grandmother. And I was on the road so they put me in special school because I was getting in trouble. They weren't going to graduate me out of 8th grade because I was poor reading skills. I couldn't spell. I couldn't comprehend reading. I still can't to this day. My skills to put together a paragraph for you to understand, you have to be a rocket scientist to decipher it. I try. I'm 60 now. So long story short, I'm able to graduate from 8th grade. I got my reading up to 6th grade level, but my math skills were high school level. And I went to high school. One thing that I had is I loved baseball. So I was getting in a lot of trouble. Then I became probably, so my mother didn't want me to go to Lakeview High School because it was all gangs infested. All my friends were gangbangers. They were going to be big shots of the Disciples, the Kings, the Gaylords, the Simon Stewart. Knew all these guys. I was like this with them. I was on the street day and night as a kid. I listened to my mother, and I played baseball, and I hustled on the street. I did whatever it took. I still, at that point, didn't touch a drug. I didn't touch my first drug until I was 18. I sold them, but I didn't touch them. So at 13, I had an opportunity. Someone told me that, the Cubs equipment coming when they come in from the road, there's a truck that goes to the airport, picks up the home and visiting team, and then he comes to the ballpark. I snuck out of the house at 2 o'clock in the morning, went to Wrigley Field. I went down the railroad tracks about 4 blocks, crossed Addison Avenue, Clark Street, and I saw the truck pulling in. A guy named Rocky and a little guy, I forgot his name. And I said, "Hey, I want to work for you guys." He looked at me, goes, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. He goes, "I'm this little 4'8" kid." He goes, "Get out of here. What are you doing out home? Your parents doing it?" I go, "I'm an orphan." He goes, "Get out of here, kid." I go, "No, I want to help you unload this truck." "Get out of here." He scrams. So homestand goes. They go back on the road. The next time I go, I said, "Listen, I'm not leaving. You're going to let me work for you. I don't want no money. I just want to work, help you guys. Buy me a dinner. Buy me breakfast." The guy goes, "This kid's persistent." So he lets me start unloading the truck into these roll carts that went to the visiting clubhouse. And then at the bottom of the stairs, the clubhouse guys, the bat boys and the clubhouse manager and the assistant would come in to bring the stuff up and unpack it. So he goes, "Who's the kid?" He goes, "Man, this kid came out 2 o'clock in the morning from his house, determined to work for us. He wanted to come and help us carry. He's a big baseball fan." So I worked. I did this for every time. He goes, the kid, he started throwing me $15-20, buying me a meal. He said, "You did a good job today, kid. We'll come. Here's our schedule. Be here every time." He goes, "You sure your mom's gonna be all right?" I go, "She doesn't know. I sneak out of the bedroom." So I get caught, and I told my mother, "No, Mom, I'm doing this," and I wouldn't listen. So I would just leave, and I'd go do this. And finally, the clubhouse manager goes, "Hey, kid, you want to work after the games and clean spikes and do laundry and clean the dugout and stuff?" I said, "Sure." So I started doing that, and then Yosh Kawana, the clubhouse manager for the Cubs, goes, "My bat boys can't get out of school today. You got anybody over there to work?" "Well, I cut school all the time." So I go, "Yeah, I'll send this little Italian kid over." And he goes, "But he talks a lot." And Yosh didn't like talker. And players love me, and I always talked. I never could shut up. And I would be on a dugout, and I would purposely if a guy hit a home run, I'd be up there getting high fives so I could be in the newspaper. I was a hot dog. But it saved me from being either murdered or in prison because I had something. But I started seeing my mother's girlfriend. I was 16, she was 32, my first experience. And it escalated from there. My one girlfriend that was my age, that was just getting ready to start dating, Christine Jordan, she was murdered by a serial killer. She had walked to my house. I was staying at my uncle's house on Southport Avenue, 3317 Southport. She came by to go to the store before she had to get back home for dinner and do her homework. And there was a guy we didn't know across the street in the building, the corner building, that was a serial killer. He had killed a bunch, 8 women. He abducted my girlfriend, took her in there, killed her, raped her, and they found her all hacked up in the thing. That's another story. And then my other 2 friends jumped off the YMCA building. They were high on stuff back in the 70s. It's a real angel dust. They thought they could fly, and they plunged to their death. And she landed first, Ellen Chow, and Eddie landed on it, broke every bone in the body. They were supposed to both die. They wanted to go to heaven. And they were gonna, they were just. Well, he lived in coma 6 months, and we had to go tell him after he came out of coma. He kept asking for Ellen, and we told him he was dead. And Eddie became the neighborhood drunk to this day. Never recovered. Is just a homeless drunk in the same neighborhood where he's lost his love of his life. I've been through a lot of crazy stuff, man. I've seen people get shot, killed. My best friend became a big leader with the Disciples. I knew all the leaders in the Kings. I had a gifted gab, but I had these guys, these wise guys that loved me. So the Latin gangs wouldn't mess with me because they knew that the people I knew were big leagues and they were minor leagues. And I would counsel my friend. I was street smart, and I would help him with his drug business. And I at 17, I had my first child. I worked 3 jobs around the clock to pay for her to be born. And there's so much I don't want to give you tie this up, but